Talktainment Radio Worldwide Sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Alrighty. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. And you are now in touch with the compensatory concept. I am Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. The compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., world-renowned Neely Fuller Jr., and he's on with me live from Washington, D.C. And as usual, is our custom, we will start off by saying, good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you this morning?
Good morning, and I'm still learning.
All righty. Very consistent with the still learning. Okay, maybe this week we can get to some of the questions that we've had stacked up, but before we even do that, let's say this, that if you have any questions or even a comment, and if you do, make it brief so we can get all the callers in, you can contact the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, and we will get Mr. Fuller on, and he will do his best to truthfully answer your questions. And before we go to the question, we do have a caller already. Let's see here. Go ahead, caller. What is your call this morning for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning, sir. My question is, should African Americans right now start preparing for the Ebola crisis by having enough food, water, money on hand?
Okay. Mr. Fuller, you care to respond to that?
Have enough food, water, and money on hand? That's the suggestion?
From the caller, yes.
Should we be concerned at all?
Yes, you should always have some food and water and, of course, money. You should always, as a regular thing, regardless of circumstances, should always try to put some money aside. That's a part of the compensatory code because you're definitely going to need it. There's no such thing as you're going to have too much money stacked up. With black people, traditionally, at least in the Northwestern Hemisphere, since what they call the Depression of the 1930s, many black people have gotten into the credit card habit, and that's plastic money, so it's not real money. So many of them, for a few generations now, have gotten in the habit of just spend everything you got, and just hope that maybe some more will be coming somewhere or sometime, maybe. And but according to the compensatory code, what I've written in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, regardless of how little money you may have coming in, and most of it is little for many, many people, try to put some aside so that you don't have to always be in the mode of borrowing. Because in a crisis, and a crisis will be coming up within the next 24 hours or the next week or so, some type of large or small crisis for the average black person will be coming up where you have to have cash on hand. And it's best to have it on hand than to be scrambling around at the last minute, always out of breath, running up your blood pressure and whatnot, trying to get a few dollars extra because you're short. And, of course, having money means you'll have some food in the refrigerator and be up to par on your medicines and whatnot if you're taking any. Always try to have something on hand that is of constructive value. That's correct. The suggestion is correct.
All righty. All right, thank you, caller. Okay, let's go to line number 2. Go ahead, caller. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Yes, me and the individual was talking about racism today in America, and he brought up the point. He was like, even though it's rough here, it would be worse in Africa because of the corrupt rulers and a lot of genocide that's going on. But I tried to explain to him that the white supremacists are behind it, but I couldn't really go into depth because I couldn't explain it real well, and I just wanted to know if Mr. Neely Fuller maybe could explain how the white supremacists are behind just like genocide and the puppet leaders of third world countries, the continent of Africa.
Well, I don't call it genocide. I call it one of the 6 major white supremacist strategies for confusion and domination. Of course, you dominate people by confusing them if you want to do it efficiently. So you have racial classification confusion, racial dislocation confusion, racial population tailoring confusion, racial sexual confusion, racial showcasing confusion, and racial white sacrifice confusion. Now, the third one there is racial population tailoring confusion. And what does that mean? You're not trying to kill everybody. I mean, the word genocide means you kill everybody. Everybody who's classified as black or who you perceive to be black, just kill them all, wherever you find them, anywhere on the planet. Kill everybody. That's what genocide is. You don't leave anybody. I mean, it's nothing left. Like in Genesis, you go back to the roots, which means you kill everybody. I mean, everybody came from somewhere, so you make sure that it won't be anybody after these. I mean, after you kill these people, there won't be any black babies left. You kill them all. Females, males, old people, infants. That's genocide. The white supremacists could have done that a long time ago. So they're not trying to do that. They're just trying to control the populations. So one way of doing that, without going in with guns and killing people, that's too obvious and too laborious. You can just suddenly say, oops, there's some mysterious disease. It's being spread among these people. Or the water has gotten poisoned where they are. And they have been drinking it because they didn't know any better. They're a bunch of ignorant people. So they shouldn't be drinking that water, but they keep drinking the water. Well, they're drinking the water because that's the only water available. But the white supremacists, you should suspect, had something to do with it because they do tailor black populations. And there's no defense against that. They can always kill black people when they want to. I don't care how you shake it up and pour it, whether it's in Ferguson or whether it's through Ebola or whether it's some mysterious something moving around in the air that nobody's ever heard of or something like that, and it seems to be just drifting all over what we call Africa, but we don't know where it comes from. It must be coming from some other planet, whatnot, and it's just something in the air, some type of mysterious mist that just suddenly appeared. Maybe it's coming from a volcano that is now active and hasn't been active for thousands of years, but it's just drifting, and the people can't detect it, they can't see it, they can't smell it. It's like methane gas, and they're just dropping dead all over the place. Well, usually the usual suspects, you can suspect, well, here they go again. The white supremacists are tailoring the population. And when they get the population down where they want it to be, and the people are no longer productive or the people are no longer there, and then they can go in and take what they want and all like that because they say it's dangerous territory. Nobody should go there. I mean, you know, they got some type of mysterious mist that's killing people. That's why there's nobody there now. But see, but they got the population down. Or they force them to flee. which sometimes that's the case. They don't want to kill them, but they want them to move so that they can come in later on and get what they want, because they say nobody's there and nobody wants to go there because it's forbidden territory. It's dangerous territory. So they have all kinds of ways of doing what they do, which is practice the system of white supremacy. So I think it's racial population tailoring. It's just another form of tailoring. When they get the population down where they want it, then suddenly they'll discover how to stop it, how to stop whatever disease, germs, or chemicals, or whatever that's causing the problem.
Okay, did you have another question, caller?
Yeah, I just wanted to see what Mr. Neely Fuller thought about the statement that Charles Star Raven Simone made about that she wasn't African American.
Yes.
And she didn't want to be viewed as gay, even though gay is just a title that really doesn't mean anything. I would consider it homosexual, but I just wanted to know if he heard anything or if he could explain how confused a person have to be to view it that way.
Well, the white supremacists, are causing all kinds of sexual confusion. Of every type, just like they did with the racial thing. When they first started out, they had the classifications. The racial classifications were just 3 in the northwestern hemisphere, and then spread to the other parts of the world, I think. And that was white, black, and mulatto. Now they have 21, even though people haven't changed that much. Even in thousands of years, they haven't changed that much to have those many different racial classifications. And they will come up with more. Now, they did the same thing with the sexual thing, male and females. That's what you started out with, basically. Now, you always have had people who were what you call lesbians or homosexuals among all people. And generally speaking, people just considered that it is what it is. But it wasn't anything that was being promoted as such. Now the white supremacists have found it expedient to promote it among non-white peoples, because then that gives them better control and gives them another avenue for causing more confusion. You have to remember, the white supremacists, there are 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And if you're going to dominate people for a long period of time with efficiency, you have to confuse them in all of those areas 24/7. You can't let them get out of the state of confusion, or then they become unruly. So you want to keep people confused. When you keep people confused, you can always dominate them, because they always have to come to you to deconfuse every situation, because they go through every day totally confused about everything. This is the way you want to keep them if you want to be an expert dominator. So therefore, sexual confusion is very important. So you say, oh, you just don't want male and female to be recognized and promoted and whatnot. You have a lot of other hidden genders in people and whatnot. They're not right there on the surface, but, you got a lot of trans factors there in each individual. So you want to explore those, and you want to look into them. People should be able, in sexual liberation, to express themselves, to the fullest. So then you come up with a whole bunch of different categories. You start with just male, female, and then you say, well, you got bi, and then you got transgender, and then you got sometime, and then you got more time of this and that and the other, and then you have omnigenders. Let's explore that. And the next thing you know, you have a sexual diaspora all over the place among non-white people, so that the whole male-female thing becomes completely lost, which is what they're trying to get non-white people all over the world away from. And then the racial thing, you throw that in there and keep adding to those so that a person says, well, I'm not black, and I'm not white, and I'm not non-white, and I'm not this, and I'm not that. Well, then the question raised, well, wait a minute, what are you? Well, I'm something or another. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means something or another. Yeah, but what can you do with that? Well, don't pin me down. I mean, you're trying to just put me in one category. I'm not just in one category. I'm a lot of things. Well, a lot of things like what? In order to accomplish what? Well, I mean, whatever. See, confusion. Then once that happens, the white supremacists sit back and say, well, hey, what we're doing is working fine because we are not confused. Our job is to dominate non-white people, everybody who's black, brown, red, yellow, beige, purple, orange, gold, whatnot. Everybody who is not white, as a white supremacist, it is my duty to dominate and mistreat them forever. That's the white supremacist agenda. That's what it is. And I am not confused about that, and nobody can confuse me about that, and I am some kind of efficient with it because I have accomplished that. I'm not trying to accomplish that. I have long, my forefathers before me accomplished that. We have this down to a scientific perfection, and we got these people so spaced out, they don't have any idea not only about who they are and what they are here for, they got no idea about nothing that I don't tell them. That's the white supremacist agenda.
Yes.
Because it's an agenda that works.
All righty. Thank you very much for your call, caller. And to our other listeners, you are listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively here on TalkTameItRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard. Before we go to, by the way, and if you would like to get in contact with the show, and we do appreciate that, you can do that by calling 1-877-932-9766, and we will get you in the order that you have called. Before we go to a question here that has just been texted to me, Mr. Fuller, could you just speak just briefly about your book, the name of it, and how one can get a copy of your book?
Yes, the basic title is The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Those just a bunch of words that don't mean anything until you actually read the book, but there's a subtitle, a textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of white supremacy. And you can get the basic book and the additional word guide by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what should come up on the screen is a brief description of both books. One is a basic book. The second book is an addition to the basic book, and that's called a Compensatory Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide. It's similar to a dictionary, but it's basically a word guide showing you how to use words, how not to use words, what words to look for, the meaning of them when other people use them, what questions to ask, and whatnot about these words, because in the system of white supremacy, they use a lot of words that are designed to confuse their victims. So we have to become familiar with a lot of these words. I don't have all the words in there. There are thousands of them.
Yes, sir.
But it's a guide.
Yes, sir.
ProduceJustice.com.
Okay. Now, before I get to the question that the person had text me, going right back to that point, because a question was asked of me this week, and I couldn't answer it, only you could answer this question. It was asked Mr. Fuller, do you need the word guide? And I said that you would have to ask that question to Mr. Fuller. So I'm asking you on behalf of the person that asked me, do you need that word guide?
Well, it just helps.
Okay.
That's why I call it an addition. There is a word guide in the basic book.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But I just have additional words in the word guide.
Okay.
So some people get both books, some people don't.
Right. Right.
So it's up to them.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Here's a question. It's kind of a two-part question, so I'll try to read it as much as I can. Mr. Fuller, you often discuss how if there's a major war, disease, outbreak, media distortions, or other catastrophic events, how we should always know and state that with the supremacist, the cult, that is the supremacist cult. So knowing that, is it wise to confront them not with direct questions, but with ones where you try to appeal to their conscious emotions or faith religion in order to bring about change or justice, etc.? And then he's asked, do these to those who practice injustice even have a conscience to reason with?
I don't know. That's something we find out in the process of trying to have a code where a code just means a way of doing things, a set way of doing things that will lead us to find these things out by trial and error. In other words, we ask them, ask for what should be given, accept what is granted, and compensate for the difference. Compensate for the difference between what? Between what you asked for and what you got. Now, you're always asking for justice. You ask the white supremacists, produce justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, justice does not exist anywhere on the planet. You can't have white supremacy and justice on this planet anywhere at the same time. It's impossible. Can't be done. There's no such thing as justice being in one place and not being in another place. It's got to be everywhere, otherwise it isn't justice. I'm not the first person that said that. Martin Luther King said that, and many others before him probably. There's no such thing as, you're just chopping up justice and say, well, we can give this person justice, but this person over here is not going to get it. Well, that's not justice. Justice has to be across the board, meaning, but it didn't have a definition, and not one that I could accept. When I looked in dictionaries, I didn't see a definition for justice that made sense. So I asked someone in 1994, what is justice? And they didn't give me an answer, and then I looked at a television program where there was, I think it was Jerry Spence, being interviewed by Larry King, and they were discussing the word justice. And lawyer Jerry Spence said, well, justice doesn't have a definition. And Larry King agreed. Now, I had never even thought about it in that context before, because I think we become familiar with words, using words, and we don't pay attention to the exact definition of those words. That's why I tried to emphasize the use of paying attention to words and have a word guide.
Yes.
So I looked in several dictionaries. I didn't like what I saw. So I asked another lawyer, I said, what exactly is justice? What's the definition of justice? How do you know when you got it? And he said, justice is whatever the Supreme Court says it is. And I said, that's the definition of justice? He said, as far as I know as a lawyer. He said, it's just what somebody says it is. And so that was not satisfactory to me.
Yes,
so
sir.
I tried to come up with what I call a better definition, a compensatory definition that the dictionary didn't have, the dictionaries I had read. So it's just those two parts.
Okay.
Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Okay. Now, he asked, he says, is it wise to confront them being the white supremacists, not with direct questions, but with ones where you try to appeal to their conscious emotions or their faith religion in order to bring about change, etc.? Because there is no, you just mentioned there is no such thing as justice in your opinion. So should we confront them with direct questions?
Yes. Oh, well, it's not a confrontation. It's just questions. See, all problems are solved according to the code through the process of questions and answers. Every problem in the universe, the record shows that. So, first thing when you're talking to white people, first thing you want to know, or talking to any people, I mean, people that you know and all like that, you have 4 questions, 4 basic questions that you don't deviate from. What do you want to do? Because everybody wants to do something. Each and every day, every minute of the day, every organism, every person, every ant wants to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the first thing you want to know is, what do you want to do? When you're talking to a white person, what do you want to do? What is it you really want to do? And then the next question is, why do you want to do this thing that you want to do? Why do you want to do it? Must have a reason. You know, you want to do it. Why do you want to do it? And then the third question, how do you plan to do this thing that you want to do? And then, fourth question, what do you expect the constructive result to be? Now, these are 4 questions that everybody should ask him or herself, first of all, and ask of everybody else if you want to get an understanding of where the person is going, what this person really is, or what you really are. Those 4 questions, they're loaded.
Okay, wait a minute. What do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
Why do you want to do it?
Why do you want to do it? How do you plan to do it?
How do you plan? Okay.
Yes, even a bird planned through the air. I mean, wants to do something for a reason, and it has some kind of plan.
Okay.
Okay.
And the last
one, what do you expect the constructive result to be? That's even something gang members can ask. I mean, one gang member talking to another. What do you want to do, man? Why do you want to do it? How do you plan to do it? I mean, what kind of plan, that you have? Is it going to involve me or what? I mean, and how and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you expect the constructive result to be? Now, if you're gang members, most likely it's not going to be a constructive result because the plan ain't constructive. See what I mean? And you can find this out by asking those 4 questions of everybody.
Of everybody.
Not just what you call getting an understanding.
Right. Not just the white supremacists, but this logic is for everybody.
These are universal questions that apply to everybody, every creature, even an alligator on the planet. Mr. Alligator, what do you want to do? Well, I want to get over on that bank and chew that guy up that's fishing, Well, why do you want to do it? Because I'm hungry. Well, how do you plan to do it? By sneaking up on him, Okay. Well, what do you expect a constructive result to be? Well, I will be a stronger alligator after I eat him,
Yeah, that's true. Okay. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Check us out on WCRS FM 98.3 Wednesday and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. We go where you go. Radio the way it should be heard. Coming up next, a term that Mr. Fuller Jr. used a couple of weeks ago, boy, is still making people upset. So we'll have that and more coming up next on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
TalkTainMenTRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainMenTRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainMenTRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainMenTRadio.com.
We can give you a new heart.
We can help you walk again.
We can perform brain surgery.
We can treat a sore throat.
We can bring life into the world.
We can work so many miracles. But the one thing we cannot do is read your mind.
When you communicate with your doctor,
when you ask us more questions,
you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake.
Tens of thousands of lives are lost every year due to medical mistakes.
The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help.
Please, open up. Ask more questions.
What are the side effects?
When should I expect my test results?
Will this medication interact with my other prescriptions?
We can't answer if you don't ask.
Help reduce your risk.
Questions are the answer.
Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
Have you been diagnosed with prostate cancer? You may be eligible to participate in a clinical research study for an investigational procedure called High-Intensity Focused Ultrasound, or HIFU. This is a minimally invasive procedure. It is radiation-free, may destroy prostate cancer cells, and potentially has few side effects. This investigational procedure is performed at no cost to the patient. Call today at 1-866-619-6026 or visit www.theprostatecancerstudy.com. Have you been diagnosed with prostate cancer? You may be eligible to participate in a clinical research study for an investigational procedure called High-Intensity Focused Ultrasound, or HIFU. Call today at 1-866-619-6026 or visit www.theprostatecancerstudy.com.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him opening his own clothing store at the age of 18? 1 in 138,000. Excited to be a part of pop culture, he packed for the big city. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. I encourage you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks, the Ad Council, and TalkTainMenTRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
Goodwill is a global social services enterprise and the leading nonprofit provider of job training programs and career services in the United States and Canada. To pay for its program, Goodwill sells donated clothes and other household items in more than 2,700 stores and online at shopgoodwill.com. Goodwill uses the revenue earned from these sales to fund job training, employment placement services, and other community programs. The goal of the campaign is to increase goods donations to Goodwill, inspire an emotional connection to the Goodwill brand, and to elevate preference for Goodwill.
Supporting minority education. I'm Sean Booker, dammit, from The Melting Pot. I'm here to tell you that as the mother of a high school senior, I know due to financial circumstances, many of America's deserving minority students do not have access to a college education. Since 1944, the United Negro College Fund has sought to provide one. Since 1972, the beginning of this campaign, UNCF has helped more than 300,000 talented students earn a college degree. I'm Sean Booker, dammit. Give a helping hand.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You got the power.
Alrighty, welcome back to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. That's radio, the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, and the show is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And if you would like to ask him some questions, and by the way, we've had some good questions today and good responses, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, and we will try to get you on. Now, I have two questions, and I do have some callers on the line, so let me ask the question, and then we'll have the caller, and then we'll ask another question if another caller doesn't call in. Mr. Fuller, a couple of weeks ago, you to your term, dropped some bombs on people, and one of the bombs that you dropped was that you mentioned black men as boys. And in conversating with a few people around this city that listened to the show, and one of them did happen to call in, they weren't too happy with that term that you call black men as boys. And even last week, you even called yourself a boy. Could you go on and explain that? Maybe we can get some clarity on that as why you feel that black men are boys.
Boys are dependent upon men. A man is a manager. Black males don't manage anything. That's why I say I'm a black male, and I'm in a boy classification because I'm in a boy condition. Now, I'm not saying that, to be harsh or name-calling or anything like that. I'm just making an observation and using the terminology that goes with it. There used to be a singing group called Boys to Men, and during the time of Martin Luther King's march in Memphis, and when he was assassinated, there were black males with the Memphis Sanitation Department who were walking around with signs saying, "I am a man." Now, white men don't walk around with signs saying, "I'm a man." They might say, "I'm unemployed," or "Please help me," or something like that. But their manhood is not questioned. Why? Because they are members of a master group called the System of White Supremacy. And therefore, that automatically makes every white male a man, even when he might be 10 or 12 years old. He's still a man. A man as compared to whom? As compared to boys. What boys? The boys who have color in their skin. Well, a male who has color in his skin, if he's 21 or 50, would you call him a boy under the system of white supremacy? Yes, anywhere on the planet, because he's in a boy's condition. It's not his fault, but he's not allowed to be a man. That's why black males, as far back as I can remember, getting into arguments in front of the pool hall or the barber shop or in the pool hall or whatnot. Used to have a lot of pool halls back in the old times and whatnot. And sometimes they'd say, "Wait a minute, don't talk to me like that. I'm a man. I ain't no chump." Chump meaning whatever. Mm-hmm. But hey, now you challenging my manhood. And black males like to walk down the middle of the sidewalk and have people walk around them and whatnot, and flex their muscles and take off their shirt and show how strong they are, see, because we're always crying out, "Hey, I want to be recognized as a man." But you can't be recognized as something that you're not. That's what I'm trying to say. We can grow into men, but we have to get out from under the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
You cannot be subject to white supremacy and be a man. It's totally impossible.
Okay. All right. So I hope that explained it to those that called in and those that were conversating about that. Maybe that will bring about some clarification on that. Okay. Let's go to line number 1. Go ahead, caller, with your call from Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Jr.? Mr. Fuller, Jr.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. I have a concept to throw with you, and I think it's kind of in line with what you've been saying all along. From me listening to you for a couple of years, I think basically what you're saying is that white supremacists are ruling over colored people through keeping us confused about who we are and what our purpose is in life. And I think the main strategy that they use to keep us confused about who we are and about what our purpose is in life is religion. As for example, I want to be quick about this. As for example, black people go to church on Sundays and we listen to a man preach. But when we leave church on Sundays, we end up following somebody else's interpretation of the Bible. Now, whose interpretation of the Bible do we follow? We follow the people who look just like that man up on the cross. So as for example, he goes out and asks his woman to marry him. Then he buys her a diamond ring. Then they sit in front of a preacher and get married. So the black man of America, he goes out and asks his woman to marry him. He goes out and buys her a diamond ring. And they go before another man get married. Now, God may condone marriage, but there's nowhere in the Bible where I can read where God told a man to go and ask a woman to marry him, or to go and buy her a diamond ring, or to go and stand before another man and get married. So this is my thing. White supremacists are using religion, Christianity, as a tool to get people of color to worship him as God. Now, what is your concept about that concept?
All righty. Thank you for your call. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller. Can you expound on that or answer that?
There are 9 areas of activity. The 7th area is religion. And economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. The white supremacists, when they got the idea that they were going to establish something called white supremacy, they said we have to dominate these people in all areas of activity, including their religion, particularly their religion, because religion is what? A strong belief backed up by action. That's all any religion is. And the white supremacists said we're going to make white supremacy the strongest religion that has ever existed. They have succeeded in that. They are not in the process of doing that. Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Confucianism, Judaism, all of these other religions don't come anywhere close to being as strong as the religion of white supremacy. A strong belief backed up by action. So people are in complete disarray. Confusion, which is what the white supremacists do. They confuse people. Well, we got them confused. We're working on getting them all confused sexually. But we have long ago got them confused when it came to the 7th area of activity, religion. All of these dark-skinned people around here killing each other, hitting each other over the head with the Bible, having endless barbershop arguments about what Ezekiel meant, or what Solomon did or didn't do, or what Ruth said or didn't say. We got them confused. That's what we do. We take any holy book and we read it, and we thoroughly add to it and subtract from it. And then we distribute pamphlets, or samples of it. That adds to the confusion. With our names on it. And we establish different type of churches and whatnot. Different church on every corner with a different name. Supposed to be the same religion, but we got a different church with a different name. adding to the confusion. Go over here to the Protestant church. Oh, no, they don't know what they're talking about. Then go over here to the Catholic church. And, oh, no, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, what about Jehovah's Witnesses? Okay, well, we'll sample some of that. And they don't know what they're talking about. And then the white supremacists sit back, well, when it comes to all you dark-skinned people, you got one religion. And that's the religion that I say that you have. But I might say, depending on how I feel, that you will have all of them at once or none of the above. But you will bow down to one religion, and that's the religion of white supremacy. I don't care what you think in your heads, and you black people can argue all you want to in the barbershops over there on the colored side of town or in your millions of churches. You can scream and yell and stomp and holler, but when the white supremacists walk into your church and say, all of you, get on your knees to me, because I'm the one who feeds you, clothes you, shelters you, and even allows you to have a church on this corner rather than a parking lot. So you will do what I say, or you will feel my wrath. I'm your God, and don't you ever forget it.
Wow. That's really something else here. Thank you. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, we have to do this. You are, by the way, listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I'm your host, Mr. Bobby. And if you have any questions, you can certainly call in our remaining 15 minutes of time. And that number is 1-877-932-9766. One of our callers over the air mentioned that he would like to go 2 hours. Now, I don't know who we would contact here. I think there would have to be something done about that and said, and then contacting Mr. Fuller to see if he was available for a 2-hour podcast. But if you really want this show to go that long, then you contact the radio station and see what they come up with, and maybe something like that could happen. I don't know. I don't have any power or authority in that, but that question was raised, and a lot of people talked to me about that. I have nothing to do with that. I'm just a facilitator, and glad to be that. All righty. Thank you. Mr. Fuller, going to a question here. A few weeks ago, Wendell Pierce, the actor Wendell Pierce of the Wire fame and numerous television and movie productions, happened to be on the Bill Maher show, which airs on HBO, and he stunned America as he explained how white people taught black people how to be violent. And he really got, I saw the show, and he got down and really tried to make some sense out of what what his statement meant. How do you feel about how white people taught black people how to be violent?
Well, the way when you answer any question, first thing you do is try to find out is what you're going to say the truth. Now, Neely Fuller could be saying a whole bunch of things, including this morning, that are simply not true. But I say, test it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Test it for yourself. In fact, I always say, don't believe nothing Neely Fuller says. You don't have to pay any attention to Neely Fuller. Who's he? He's just another black person who's subject to the system of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, I mean, you don't have to get excited about nothing that Neely Fuller ever says, but when a white person says something, you better pay attention to that, because that white person may be, just may be, a white supremacist. And if it's a white supremacist, that's the person that's running all of your business. Neely Fuller doesn't run your business. He just runs his mouth. Okay? Get that straight. Neely Fuller, you don't really have to pay any attention to nothing to Neely Fuller. But when a white person speaks, that white person just may be, may not be now, but if that white person is a white supremacist, that person, along with all of his or her associates in the business of white supremacy, that person is running all of your business in every area of activity, every move that you make is dictated. If you have color in your skin, these are the people that run the world, period. So when they speak, look for the truth. That's the first thing you look for when anybody speaks. So if they say that white supremacy, if they are racist now, and they say, or even if they are not racist, if a white person says that white people taught black people to be violent, I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know this. Black people know a whole lot about violence. They have a lot of violence inflicted upon them. And do we ever inflict violence upon each other? Even as we speak, black people are going around looking for each other now to inflict violence on.
Yes.
You got black gangs, you got black groups, you got individual black people who are just walking the streets or walking through the forests all over the world, looking for other black people to inflict violence upon. Now, if a white person says, well, they learned that from us, well, you can pay attention to that and ask the question, were we ever violent before them? Or have we become more violent after they took power or got power or established a system of white supremacy? But we do have plenty of evidence that regardless of how it got started, black people are violent unnecessarily, wastefully so, know a whole lot about violence because we are the victims of a whole lot of violence, and we inflict a whole lot of violence on others. And all of this violence needs to stop.
Yes.
That's one thing that needs to happen.
Yes, sir.
And somebody start acting like they got some sense on this planet.
Okay. 1-877-932-9766. In our remaining moments, we have lines that are busy. So let's go to line number one and make your question quick so that we can get other callers in. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, caller. You're on.
Hey, I'm James McCain calling out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I just wanted Mr. Neely Fuller to explain the four show-off-ism right quick if he could.
The four what?
Show-off-ism.
Okay.
It's in his book. Yes, and I kind of go through it and I see it on my job, and I just want him to speak on the four show-off-isms.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, four show-off-isms. Now, I forgot the page that's on, but sometimes I can't keep up with my own writing. I've
Yes,
written
sir.
so much. But basically, black people do show off to each other. That's what we plan to do more than anything. When we are not forced to be somewhere that the white supremacists want us to be, like digging in the mines or in an office somewhere, or wherever they require us to be, because we do get our instructions from people either directly or indirectly who practice white supremacy. So anytime they give us some, quote, time off, what do black people do more than anything? What is our ambition? What do we look forward to more than anything else if we tell the truth, tell ourselves the truth? We look forward to showing off to each other more than anything. Truth be told, stop and think. This is Neely Fuller saying this. Is he telling the truth? Always look for the truth. What is it that we like to do more than anything, that we feel compelled to do, when we feel like it's our duty to do? What do black people, particularly people who are generally called black and are Negro and whatnot, more than anything, and that's show off to each other?
Why? Why would be the next logical question. Why?
Because we're always seeking a reason for being. See, the white supremacists, that's one of the first things they took from us. What's your purpose, boy, girl? Well, our purpose is to raise families and all that. No. Your purpose is to do what I tell you to do. That's your purpose under the system of white supremacy. So once we got that in our heads for generations, we don't have any plan of any kind, truth be told. even when we say that we want freedom, we don't even know what. Freedom to do what? Freedom to do what? When we are allowed any kind of time on our own, we just mill around and look at each other. I mean, you know, and say, why don't somebody do something? Something like what? I don't know, something. See, I mean, truth be told, that's the way we are. Now, we're not that way by nature. I mean, you know, but we're that way by condition.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So what we do, we have a tendency not knowing what else to do. Well, since I don't have nothing to do, I don't have no plan of my life, I don't even have a vision of what I'm supposed to be doing, or why was I born? Oh, yes, black people do ask this question. Why was I born? Okay. So they say, well, to go and look for some other black people. I guess that's why I was born. Okay, look for some other black people for what? Well, just look for them, and when I get there, I guess I'll figure it out. So what do we do when we go and look for other black people? When we allow it in a little time, we go and we say, now there's another black person, and I'm going toward that other black person. This is the way it works.
Okay.
So you go toward that black person, and then you stand there and look at that person. Well, since you get tired of just standing there, so you say, well, maybe I'm supposed to be doing something now that I found this other black person. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to show them something. Well, what do you got to show them?
Oh.
Well, I'm going to show them how much I have.
Okay.
Okay, that's one of the show-offisms.
Yeah.
All right, showing off what you have.
What you have.
Now, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Let me get to this last question, last caller. Go ahead, caller, quickly here. Go ahead. You're on.
Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Monsanto paid $1.5 million in 2013 for the Ebola virus vaccine. Is the media attention surrounding Ebola a scare tactic to have millions, if not billions, of people pay money to get the Ebola vaccine?
Ooh, good question. Ooh, yes. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
No, I didn't. I was.
She talked about Could you repeat that question, caller?
Yes, sir. Monsanto paid $1.5 million in 2013 for the Ebola virus vaccine research. Is the media attention surrounding Ebola a scare tactic to have millions, if not billions, of people pay money to get the Ebola vaccine?
Oh, sure. Pharmaceuticals are a big part of keeping black people broke. That's the plan in the future. I mean, and when I say black people, I mean everything that would go for a bridge, everything that would go for a highway, everything that would go for purifying water, everything that would go for employing millions of people in Sierra Leone and in Liberia and places like that. Oh, no, the white supremacist tactic is, hey, you don't have no money for this foolishness, building bridges and roads and building more farms and factories and all like that. Oh, no. What you have to do, you're going to have to spend all that money you have in that little money that you have in your treasury, you're going to have to buy pharmaceuticals. Well, where are we going to buy the pharmaceuticals for all these diseases and whatnot? From me. That's the white supremacists. See, they got it all figured out. Everything that you make, you're talking about building schools and all like that. Oh no, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to pay everything that you got to me in order to suppress these different diseases, and I got about 6 of them that I haven't even revealed to you yet.
She hit on a good point, Mr. Fuller, about Monsanto. If you ever have done the history of them, of Monsanto, the company, and seen what they have done in terms of chemical warfare and so forth, dating back to the 1900s, it's really something. That was a very good question, caller, and thank you for your call. Really appreciate that. Well, Mr. Fuller, guess what? We have reached that point where we are going to have to say goodbye for this week, but this has been very entertaining, very informative, very good. So to all of my callers, we thank you, and to Mr. Fuller Jr., I thank you. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. We will see you next week.
listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.